Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a first impressions to do for you on another one of my Blade Show West pickups. So this is a remarkably exciting knife for me. I realize I'm holding up a pouch and saying that. This is my Peña custom Lannys Clip front flipper, and it's resting in this grommets leathercraft. You can see that crest there. This is a slip from Grommets Leathercraft. Sorry, I just drank a bunch of Dr. Pepper to try to stay up for as long as it's going to take to edit this. Anyway, I picked up this leather slip for this knife at Blade Show, where I picked up the knife, and I'm really excited about this. This is breaking some of my typical preferences about knives in a way that I'm finding really, really fun at the moment. So I'm going to put the slip down. I guess I may pick it back up at some point, but I don't necessarily know. Maybe we'll talk about it more, maybe we won't. Really nice slip, by the way. It's really well done. So this is the Lannys Clip front flipper, and the Lannys Clip, from what I have gathered, is a traditional pattern of knife. So like slip joints and stuff that have been being made for a long time, probably backlocks as well. This is a pattern that exists, and so a number of slip joint makers and traditional knife makers will make this pattern of knife today, and Enrique Pena is one of them. This one happens to be a locking front flipper, so it's a liner lock and it's a front flipper, top flipper, I don't know what you want to call it. Basically you can open it either way. Really, you can front flip kind of from this front corner. Oh, sorry, I'm doing it so awkward for the camera. I really need to find a better way to do deployment for the camera, but anyway, you can front flip it like that, or you can pull from the top, because this whole area up here is jimped, and bada bing bada boom, deploys that way. Anyway, it's a Lannys Clip, but a front flipper version, so it's kind of modernized in that way. It's locking with a liner lock, and that makes it kind of bridge the gap for me quite a bit. What doesn't necessarily bridge the gap for me entirely is that this knife doesn't have a clip on it. You'll notice there's no clip anywhere on here, and that means it is officially the only pocket knife that I own, other than like junk drawer knives from when I was a kid that I never touched, that are like tucked away up in my closet, of knives that I actually own and bought as an adult and carry and use. I don't own anything in the realm of folders that doesn't have a pocket clip. That's just not a thing that I've typically been into. And I was talking to a buddy of mine today on Instagram. Some of you might know him, the old man, Bob Poncho. And we were talking about a couple of different knives. And I mentioned that while I was at Blade Show West, there was this company, Birdfist Knives. And Nick over there and his wife, they were both awesome. But talked to Nick quite a bit. And Benny from Jack Wolf Knives, also a maker of slip joints that I frankly really kind of am growing to appreciate the more I handle them and experience them. Plus I really like Benny. Anyway, Benny bought one of Nick from Birdfist Knives, one of his slip joints, and these were really nice slip joints. I'd already been to the table and handled them, and they were, I think table price was like $750, which at the moment was like, it's a lot for a slip joint, because I'm just not that into slip joints. But then by the end of the show, I was like kind of kicking myself for not getting one. And then today I even checked on his site, like if he had any. I just kind of find myself wanting one. And I was talking to Bob about this. Sorry, I'm trying to bring it all back around. The old man, Bob Poncho. We're DMing on Instagram. I was talking to him about it, and I was mentioning how like it's the first time in knife collecting that I'm at all interested in slip joints and things that are like so far removed from what my typical preferences are. And I think if I have to identify it, what's been happening, sorry, we're going to get more to these first impressions in a minute. What's been happening is I think I've come to this point where I feel so satisfied that all of my bases are covered in all of my typical knife use cases, including the fun ones that I very rarely do. Like, I have a knife for everything. And not only do I have a knife that can do everything, but I've gotten to a point where I have like kind of the knife for everything, at least for me in the moment. I don't feel like there's any gaps in my collection. there are still things that I want in folders that are locking and have pocket clips and all these things, right? There are plenty of knives I still want to try. I'm not bored of knives, but I am like satisfied in the moment. And in that satisfaction, I feel like I'm finding myself kind of like more open to a little bit more experimenting. I don't know. Maybe it's also just where I'm at in life with like changes that are going on in life and all these things. I just like, I don't know. I feel a little bit more experimental at the moment. And so that's part of why I finally pulled the trigger on this. This is a custom Peña that has no pocket clip. This knife table price was $850. So $850 for a knife to me with no pocket clip in CPM 154 seems a little bit like it goes against a lot of the things that are important to me, or I say are important to me, and they are. But I've got those things covered, I really do. And so this is a knife that is just for fun. I don't need this knife to be anything other than fun and different, and it's really different. Carrying a knife in this is a different experience than carrying a knife with a pocket clip that's clipped to my pocket. Almost every day, pretty much without fail, I'm usually carrying two knives, especially if I'm out and about. If I'm sitting on the couch, I might just have one in my pocket, but if I'm out running errands and stuff, I usually have a primary folder front right pocket and a secondary folder back left pocket. That could look like a lot of different things, but usually it's the bigger knife front right pocket, the littler knife back left pocket, and that works for me. But carrying this as a secondary has been kind of awesome so far. It feels like carrying an extra wallet when I've got it in this. It just feels like I've got two wallets on me, which my wallet, I carry a Redeemed Creations Co. front right pocket, or front pocket bifold, and I carry it in my front right pocket next to my knife, and it's perfect because it's slim and it's leather, so it doesn't gouge my knife. My knife doesn't really gouge it, regardless of what I'm carrying, and it's just comfortable there. And so tossing this back left pocket totally works, and it's not something that I thought I would enjoy as much as I have been. It's really going well. I didn't really expect it to. It's funny, I just recorded right before this my first impressions of this knife. This is the Monterey Bay Knives Sea Otter, and I feel like with both of them I'm having these similar experiences where they're just different than I thought they would be before getting them, or even as I was purchasing them. On Enrique's table, when I purchased this knife, he had a bunch of different knives. He had custom Apaches. He had, I don't know what all the patterns are called. I'm terrible at that. But I know the Apache because I have an X Series one. And I went with this on size alone because I also have the large swayback X Series. And the increased size just makes it work better for me, I found. So I'm glad that I've sampled some X Series knives to know that I prefer the slightly bigger ones for me. And yeah, I also love clip points, especially on a kind of traditional pattern. This feels very traditional to me. And so I jumped on this one, and it's just, I don't know. I guess if I was to try to explain what I thought would happen with this knife, it's that I thought I would get it and it would feel really nice and special because I've always really liked Enrique Pena as a maker. And I've loved the idea of having one of his customs because I like him. That's a big part of it. But also because I know his quality is insane. I'd handled a couple before, seen a ton in photos and videos, and his quality is just immaculate. It's kind of remarkable how close his customs feel in real life to being a really, really high-end production knife. Like usually with customs, you can spot some little things on it where it's like you could see that the maker worked on it. It doesn't seem like it could be a masterfully CNC'd knife. And this kind of feels like it could be a masterfully CNC'd knife. It feels production-like in the best way possible. It's because it's so perfect, it's hard to believe it was made by human hands. And so I thought I'd be getting this Peña custom, and it would feel really nice, like a gift to myself, like I've kind of arrived in a way that I finally own a piece of his work. I've always associated it with kind of a next level of the hobby maybe, and I thought every now and then I'll toss it in a pocket, maybe in a slip, maybe loose, whatever makes sense. I'll have to feel it out. Maybe it'll live in my fanny pack in a little pouch in a way that like it carries easily there or something. But I didn't think I'd end up actually like enjoying having it in pocket in a slip. I didn't think I wouldn't mind that when I get it out to cut something that I'd have to pull a whole slip out of my pocket and I'd have to take a moment to pull it out of the slip and then I'd deploy it from there. And then I've got this slip I've got to do something with while like all of these things seemed like they would get in the way of my enjoyment of the knife. And I think if I picked like a slip joint that I was just trying for the sake of trying, but I didn't really love, or even a front flipper like this, even if it was modernized and fun like this is, but it wasn't a knife that I really like loved, then those steps would bother me. Then it would bother me to have a thing like this in my pocket. It would bother me to like have to take the time to pull it out of this to use it, and then I got to worry about where this goes while I use it, and then it's just like extra stuff and all that, right? It would bug me if I didn't adore the knife, but I adore this knife. And so I don't know, it feels weird. It feels in some ways like I'm kind of eating my own words, because like it's almost like how I sometimes make fun of like slow rolling a knife open. It just doesn't do it for me. There are some knives where it actually feels pretty good and I do kind of enjoy it, but it's still not like, if a knife that can be slow rolled can be middle finger flicked, I'm always going to middle finger flick it, right? This is a knife that just plain doesn't have a pocket clip. It's not an option to carry it the way I normally carry knives. For lack of a better term, I'm having to slow roll it. I'm having to carry it in this, right? It's like antiquated, and I feel like I don't typically love things in the knife world that are like purposely antiquated, but I'm just kind of loving it. The action is insane, which really helps it for sure. The edge that he put on it is ridiculously sharp. The cutting profile is fantastic. It's thin behind the edge. It's a wonderful blade shape. The finish work is insane. The micarta is gorgeous. Like everything about it is just wonderful. and it's like it's breaking my rules in a fun way, like because I love it so much, because it does do those things where it makes me feel like I arrived, like I got this custom, like I'm at kind of a next chapter of collecting by having work from a maker like Enrique Pena. I'm finding that I like the extra steps, because every time that I pull this out of my pocket and I go, even just to take a picture of the knife or to cut something with the knife or just to play with the knife because I want to fidget with it, the fact that it's like protected in this thing in my pocket that also feels very nice and well made, and then I'm having to get it out of here and I'm having to like slow down and enjoy the process a little bit more than I would if it was just clipped in my pocket like any other knife. It feels great. Granted, if I were to like, I don't know, this knife isn't going to make it into any like 3 knives for life challenges for me. It departs from utility a little bit too much to be in that arena. But carrying it as a secondary, it's freaking perfect for it. Like, if my front right pocket knife is really easy to get out and get to really quickly and do all the things that I could need to do in an emergency or whatever might need my knife to get out fast, then why not have this as a secondary? So I love it. Now we'll see. It's probably only going to be a matter of time until I get like a Birdviz custom slip joint or something and go full slip joint and see how that goes with a really, really nice, exciting slip joint that would also make me love it enough to maybe have this type of experience with it. But anyway, that was for first impressions. That seems like it's a lot more about me than it is about the knife. I'm sorry. Some of you might enjoy that little trip we just took, but some people may not at all. Anyway, let's show real quick. So the micarta on here, I already have said a couple times, it's CPM 154. Might even be 154 CM, but I think it's CPM 154. And then we've got this end cut micarta or cross cut micarta. It's natural up here for the bolsters. And then you've got this black, which I think is G10. I guess it could be black micarta, but I'm pretty sure it's G10. So you've got this black distinguishing the natural from the now OD green. kind of typical woven, like flat lay micarta. So it's really nice, the transition between the end cut or cross cut and then the regular cut micarta. This shield, I think you call it on here, there's a whole bunch of different shapes. Ryan, my partner from Left Concepts, he got one of these at the table with me. So he has a Lannys Clip as well, but it's different colored micarta, and his has like I think it's called a double bomb shield. This one is called the Keystone. And I learned that from Benny at Jack Wolf Knives because I asked him because I had no idea what any of these are called, but I thought it looked cool, still do. It's called a Keystone. Great. The backspacer is natural micarta, which matches the kind of bolsters on the scales. And then you can see, if you look closely, there is what looks to me to be a G10 liner. Actually, is there? It's really hard to see. Yeah, there's a super thin. It's easier to see up by the natural micarta. It's a better way to look at it. Little thin strip of black. So looks like it's G10 to me. And yeah, the liners themselves, I believe, are titanium based on weight and feel. No insert or anything, but we've got a ceramic detent, and lockup is money. Really, really nice. And I've had no lock stick or anything. Everything about it feels absolutely perfect. Lock bar access is pretty good. The action on these bearings is just freaking fantastic. Not like a guillotine, but for a pretty small, light blade, very smooth. And deployment is just magical. Feels really, really good. Yeah, so the build is gorgeous. The hand rub on the blade, phenomenal. I mean, it's a stunning knife to look at. I really, really adore this knife. And looks mean a lot, if we're being honest, especially at this range, an $850 custom knife. It better look good, in my opinion. It should make you excited to look at, and this one really, really does. It's nice, too, because it's like, I don't know, it feels like a good traditional knife. I feel like I'm scratching that itch for me with this knife, but it's also so fun. You have the modern convenience of that. Like, that doesn't exist on many other Lannys clips out there. Yeah, so anyway, shout out to Enrique Pena. He is awesome. I'll put a link to his site down below. He's a great dude. I really like Enrique. And yeah, I actually, at his table, gave him one of my Bearded Gear Hanks, one of the Renegade EDC ones I had, because I was having a great conversation with the guy. I haven't given one of those to anybody else, but I really like Enrique, and talking to him at USN and then again at this show, he's just nice and kind, and he seems kind of earnest. He's not loud. He doesn't have a ton to say, but I find myself listening really closely when he does talk because he's wise in the world of knives and in life. Just a really, really cool maker. So anyway, hope I get to know him even more over time. I really like Enrique Pena, and it's an honor to own one of his knives. That's one of those things about custom knives, even more so than any other segment about the market. It really is so much about the maker. And as much as it's buying the physical knife that is here, it's buying the work of the maker. You're buying a piece of them in some kind of way. And yeah, this is really cool, especially because he built this with his hands. That makes it even more exciting than owning one of the X Series knives, which I've owned quite a few of and adored. I still have the Apache and the Swayback Large, except I think I'm going to sell those because now that I have this, they feel a little redundant. I've had the Moolah. There's got to be at least one more. I don't know. I've had a few X-Series Peña knives, and I've really enjoyed each of them. So having a custom of his is like an awesome kind of graduation from that realm to the proper one. Anyway, thanks for checking it out, guys. Sorry for droning on so much. Hopefully this wasn't horribly boring to listen to, and hopefully it was concise enough that I made some sense. Anyway, appreciate it as always. Hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you next time.